February 5th, 6 men from Lighthouse Baptist Church decided to take the light to Burkina Faso there in West Africa. The mission was clear, and the steps to achieve the mission were set in place by the ministry of Taking the Light. Through much prayer and a few close connections, the entire trip and equipment was paid for, and now all we needed to do was just get on a plane and make it happen. After an awesome stop at base camp, the training facility for missionary Keith Shoemaker, and a quick visit to the land of the sacred crocodiles, the team landed at their final destination in Bobo Dioulasso, Burkina Faso. We barely had time to grab our bags before driving to the village of Quintu, where the gospel was preached. The trip was a blur. Sermons, testimonies, outreach, more villages, soccer tournaments, people getting saved, baptism, caterpillars, money raised, and on we could go. But the mission wasn't fulfilled. We had a mission, and that mission was to take video and audio equipment to the home of missionary Jason Rischel and set it up so that gospel programming could be recorded. The men from Lighthouse Global Studios worked to make sure everything was budgeted, purchased, and accounted for, and in working order. While in the missionary's home, the setup was a breeze due to prior planning. But the mission was far from over. Training had to be done to operate the equipment, then training for those who would be on camera, and more training, and more training. As the mission came closer to being accomplished, it became clear that the fields were white unto harvest. In a country where radio is still a big part of their lives, what would it mean for a village to have a radio station that had programming with gospel preaching and Bible teaching in their tribal language? A side note, there are approximately 66 tribal languages in Burkina Faso alone. They don't sound alike, they have no similarities, they can't communicate with each other, and they have little to no programming that caters to their respective languages. So, how can they receive an education? How do they go shopping? How do they get medical needs, and etc.? Well, those that do any of those things generally learn French, but that's for a different topic at a different time. So how could someone reach a village with the gospel of Jesus Christ? Well, first, they have to reach a single person who speaks French, and then that person has to go back to their village and tell others. And this is where the story gets fun. You see, missionary Jason Rischel arrived there in Bobo Dioulasso in 2019, and he has seen many people get saved. And from those people that have been saved, he has trained a few. Right now, he leads six pastors that speak 6 different tribal languages that are already preaching the gospel right now. That's 6 of the 66 village languages have a preacher ready to go. That's when we began brainstorming. At Taking the Light and Lighthouse Global Studios, we began to figure out ways we could broadcast the messages that have already been recorded while on the ground there in Burkina Faso. The idea of what if we could transmit a low-powered radio frequency into a single village and then provide programming in their tribal language of Bible teaching, gospel preaching messages. What if everyone or every family in that village could have a solar-powered MP3 radio that they could listen to this type of programming? And what if we gave those national pastors that spoke 6 different tribal languages a deadline to record the programming, and then we gave ourselves a deadline to create these transmitters for these villages? That's exactly what we did. And Lord willing, in November 2023, we will go back to Burkina Faso, Lighthouse Global Studios, and Taking the Light to pump the Bible preaching, Bible teaching, Bible stories, and the Bible-based education into every home in these villages that we have preachers for. And the best part, you're invited to be a part. We need you, faithful prayers, and financial donations. We want you to play a part. As of this date, as you're watching this video, Taking the Light Ministries and Lighthouse Global Studios has already been able to see this firsthand. We've seen the gospel preached in the village of Falande, the evangelist William Gordon. We've broadcast our first recorded gospel message on the radio there in Bobo Dioulasso. We've been able to see the funds raised to get gospel preaching on the secular radio station there in Bobo. Money has been raised to help missionary Jason Rischel build houses to prevent squatters from stealing the lands, the properties where future churches will be started. The houses have already been built. Funds have already been provided for national pastors to get the gospel out in these rural villages. A hangar or an outdoor shelter that we had a part in building has already had their first meeting and service there in the village of Quintu. Would you consider taking the light to this needy place?